You have to be constantly tracking where leads are coming from, what your costs are, how your salespeople are selling, what's working, what's not, and constantly tweaking it. It's also hard to find a marketing company that's open and honest. All of them will tell you, I got you 1 million impressions or all these clicks and all that, but none of that really matters. Really, all that matters is how many appointments did I set for my salespeople to run? Because that's really, at the end of the day, all that matters from a lead source is how many appointments was I able to set?
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Build to Win podcast, where we discuss tools and tech for the smart contractor. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jonathan Weinberg, and I'm here as always with my other co-host, John Kolbaska. Today, we're really excited to talk to a special guest. We have Stephen Pisulak, owner of Lehigh Gap Exteriors, joining us to talk about his journey with his business. So, hey, Stephen, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, Jonathan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of kick things off, would love to have you tell a little bit of your story, take us through kind of getting started up and kind of give us an idea of where you're at today in terms of, revenue and, team size and that type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I graduated high school in 2006 and I went to college and I wanted to work on Wall Street. And then I realized that's not what I really wanted to do. And I decided to come back and work at my parents' business. They owned a building supply company, and they also had this Lehigh Gap thing. At that time, it was just a little gutter truck, and that was about it. So I came back, and I worked my summers and stuff there. And I got married in 2011. And that year, the guy that was running this business, we made $18 at the end of the year. So I asked my dad, I said, I think I can do this. Can I try? And he's like, sure, go fire Jimmy. And it's all yours. So I did and never knew how to do this. Never did it before. Never had marketing, sales training. I just kind of winged it the whole way. And so in 2012, I took over everything and I did everything. In 2013, I got smart. And I hired an office manager, Julie. She actually still works with us. She was probably one of the best things that ever happened to this company and one of the best decisions I've made. And it was great. She helped answer the phone. She did the bookkeeping, kept our office straight. We shared an office. It was like 10 by 10. We had 2 desks in there, printer.
Don't we talk about that, Jonathan? The zero to 1 million, like your first key hire is usually an administrator.
Yeah.
We've talked about that in the past episodes. So
yeah, exactly. That was vital. I mean, to be able to take some of that office admin stuff off the plate. I mean, I was still running 10 to 12 sales appointments a day. We had 2 crews on the road. So I was a production manager, salesperson. It was still quite insane.
Stephen, did you say 10 to 12 sales appointments per day?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You heard me right.
Per day?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll drill down into that. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. In February 2014, I had my first child, and I couldn't keep going like this. I was dead to the world, sleep deprived, everything, and I'm still doing all the work. So I made another really wise decision, and I hired my first salesperson. So I didn't train them. I just showed them the price sheet and said, here you go. Here's a couple bits of information. Have at it. And it worked mostly and kind of kept doing the same thing for the next couple years. Again, we were at like that 1 million mark, this whole period from that like 2014 up until 2019. Then we started growing a little bit more. 2019, I hired a second salesperson. And we grew a little bit more that year. We actually did 1.8 million, and it was pretty good. We only made 7% net, though. But to me, that seemed good at the time. I didn't know any better. And then 2020 came, and we got shut down, and that really screwed up a whole lot of plans for us. We got shut down for 3 months, and half my staff left because they were too scared to work. So we had work to do and we had no one to do it. So that really threw a huge wrench into plans and really hurt us then.
So you're still making sales, but just nobody to
We had
install.
sales. We had, at that point, I think our backlog was like 18 weeks or something. It was wild. It was wild. And then, at that time we were doing windows, doors, roofing, siding as well. We would order a set of windows and we were told you can have your windows in like 28 weeks. So
Yeah.
it was not fun, man. It was not
You
fun.
were there, John. I know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all were. It was not good.
I ordered a bay window for like a best friend. I'll never forget. It was like 2021. I ordered a bay window. My best friend, childhood best friend, comes to me. He's like, I need a bay window. I'm like, I'll do you this favor, right? So here it is, I order him the bay window. I think it's like March of 2021. And I get an order acknowledgement back for the estimated ship date of like February 2022, the next year. I'm like, 11 months. I called up the CEO and I said, are you telling me I can make a baby faster than you can make me a bay window? He said, yeah. That's how bad things were. He said, yes.
Yeah.
Said,
yeah, we had one.
It was that bad for a little while.
Yeah, we had one customer. We gave him some kind of a gift because it took 1 year from the time they ordered it to the time we installed it. So I forget what we got him, but we got him a gift because it literally took that long. We felt so bad.
Crazy time, those backlogs. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It was crazy. In 2020, though, we did some other cool stuff. We bought property to build our new facility on. And we started, doing all the architectural stuff and land development, which is an absolute nightmare. But we hired people to do it for us. So it wasn't so bad. It just cost a fortune. In 2020, my dad and I finally came to an agreement on his building supply company that he needed to sell it. He was getting to the point to where he wanted to retire. Building supply is kind of a nightmare of a business. So it was a good thing to look to exit that. So we actually had that all lined up for the end of 2020. We had a buyer, and we were going to sell it. And then unfortunately, my dad got COVID right at the end of the year, and he passed away. So this threw a huge wrench into everybody's plans. So I actually had to step in, and thankfully we were still able to sell that building supply company. But that didn't happen till like March in 21. And then they kind of handcuffed me for a couple months there. So I really couldn't work on my business. Well, actually, it was still my parents' business at the time. So 2021, it was just literally trying to survive and pick up pieces. Like there was no focus on growth or, making things better. It was, I'm just trying to make it. And at the end of 2021, I did buy this company from my mom. She held a note for a year and it paid her off right away. So I didn't want that whole hanging over my head. So 2022, we were still surviving, but we started building our new building. We didn't have enough money to build it, so we did a lot of the work ourselves, which kind of hurt us on the production side of things, but we kind of had to do it. And let's see, then we went to 2023. We moved in. 2024. 2024 was like the point where I learned I didn't know what I didn't know. I actually went to a CertainTeed vinyl siding event, and Brian Kay was there, and I went into the wrong classroom, and it was too late to leave, so I was stuck there. And so he kind of looked like one of my vendors, so I was like, is that Lou? But no, it's just Brian with this weird last name. So I listened to him, and I was like, holy crap. Man, I thought I was doing this right, and I was doing it mostly wrong. And so I bought his book, and then, his book references other books, and those books reference books and podcasts and all kind of other things.
And down the rabbit hole you went.
Oh my God, did I? I mean, it's the past year and a half of my life here. It's been so much fun because I'm learning all this new stuff, but it's a challenge to implement it. It's the learning is the easy part. The implementation is very difficult. But it works if you do it. So that was one of the best things that happened to me business wise was just running into him and being exposed to, I didn't know what I didn't know.
So where are you at, Steve, today, 2025, in top line revenue?
Yeah. So
what did you finish 2024 at?
So 2024, we finished at 2.8 million, and it was an 8% net.
Okay. 8% net.
8% net. Now, again, we had a lot of expense in there for finishing our building. We also started hiring some new people because our goal for 2025 was to hit 5 million. So we really didn't have a dedicated call center person. We really didn't have a marketing person. So we kind of added on those two roles. So going into this year, we're really heavy on the overhead side of things. We're doing pretty well. We're at 843,000 so far in revenue, and our gross margin is 48%. But we're still a little shy of breaking even for the year. This winter's been real tough. We pretty much had 3 months and we didn't have any sales or revenue, so it was really tough for us. So we're on path. We're about 113,000 off in revenue to meet our goals. So
you said something interesting there. You said you had a few months where you had no revenue.
correct, yeah.
Why would that be?
So our business has switched from, maybe I should go back and say, when we first started, all we did was seamless gutter, and we pretty much were a subcontractor for builders and contractors. That changed about 5 years ago to where we started doing less and less subcontracting, and we got into doing more of the exterior products, so roofing, siding, windows, doors. We still do the gutters, and as over the last year, we're refining that more and more, and we're trying to focus on the products that they're the easiest for us to install. We're the best at it. We're best equipped for it, and that it meets our profitability. And so now we're focusing pretty heavy on roofing and siding. Gutters naturally just comes along with that, and that's kind of a quick to cash product. So it works out really well. Windows and doors, we're on the fence with that one. We're not sure what to do with it yet, but we're gonna figure that out here in Q2, what we want to do. So
but why is it that you had no revenue the first couple of months? Why is there no revenue?
It was so cold we couldn't do anything.
Oh,
It was so
is that
cold.
difficult? I know you're in
No. This year was a very special year. We actually had winter this year. So yeah, it was pretty crazy. We January, February, March. I mean, there was only a couple, maybe 2 weeks in there that we had workable weather for the guys being outside.
Were you marketing? Were you selling jobs? You just weren't installing them? What do you mean as far as revenue? Like, just people account for revenue two different ways. Like, some people do a cash basis where, as they're getting deposits, they're putting money to the revenue line. Or are you doing the accrual base? What do you mean by, is it a?
So no, the revenue would be jobs that were installed.
Okay. So you installed no jobs.
Yeah.
You were selling jobs in the winter. You just weren't installing them, or no? You just shut down.
We were selling very few jobs over winter. That only really picked up later in March. I think a lot of people they just aren't thinking about their roof or their siding or their gutters in the middle of wintertime. Windows and doors, we would get some calls for those, but those roofing, siding, they're paying off their Christmas bills and they're not even going outside, so they kind of forgot they had a roof and siding.
So it's there's some serious seasonality there in that business.
Oh yes, there is. There is.
So you're really more or less just operating 9 months out of the year.
Yes, but we're trying to come up with some creative ideas to kind of bridge that wintertime gap. So hopefully that helps.
It might be a little bit, not right exactly the right timing, but Christmas lights. A lot of people do Christmas lights in the winter.
Yep.
That's a big one that's picking up.
You've installed. You said it was your revenue now is 800,000.
843 as of the end of April.
You installed essentially 843,000 in 6 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, from the end of March till today is what, May 10th, May 9th. I'm sorry. Yep. So you've done 800,000 in 6 weeks, which is impressive. Okay.
Right.
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the marketing side of things as you were growing through these different stages. Right, I think you mentioned you just hired the marketing person for the company.
Yes.
Okay, so how before hiring the marketing person, How were you getting leads? How were you, obviously I think the call center is just coming on board now as well. So what was your approach? How would you get leads, before then?
Yeah, so I learned from an old guy one time. He's like, good work gets you more work. And, I didn't really quite understand that, but, I came from the production side of things. So we always focused on doing really good work, really taking care of the customer, trying to make that customer experience as wonderful as possible, being there after the sale for service. So a lot of our business came from repeats and referrals. And that was very early on. Early on, too, we did a lot of subcontracting work. So just our truck being in a neighborhood, we would get phone calls that way. We always, none of our vehicles, trailers, anything are bare. Everything is logoed like crazy. It's everywhere. And that's like the best marketing you could ever do. That, $2-3 grand to wrap a truck or a trailer. I mean, you'll get that back in a few weeks. It's great. Besides that, we did do some Google PPC, doing a little bit of Facebook advertising, couple local print ads, things like that.
This is as you're growing, you're starting to add on AdWords.
As we're growing, we're adding that on.
But now, from the start, you're more or less just doing natural, organic, repeat referral, just maybe some yard signs, some trucks, signage, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, when we were growing too, we did make it a point to get involved with a lot of the local builders associations. That did help. It helped get us more subcontracting work, not so much the retail. Right now, we're pretty much 100% retail. When we started, it was probably 100% subcontract.
So subcontracting, you keep going back to that, and I haven't asked you. So you were subcontracting what, seamless gutters?
Seamless gutters, yes.
You what, roofing and siding companies?
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
And you made the decision to go full retail. Why?
So being a subcontractor, if you can be very efficient at it, it can be a pretty good thing. The big negative for me was scheduling and my time. Because if you're fully in charge of the schedule, and the jobs are ready, you can be pretty efficient with it, whether it's for you or somebody else. But having to subcontract, and you have to go back to the same job multiple times, and you don't have the right materials, you're not in control of the whole process anymore. You're just a hired hand, and you're hoping that everybody else is doing what they're supposed to be doing. And odds are they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So now you become a part-time employee for them, and it just eats into your profits unbelievably. It has its pluses, but it has a lot of minuses to it too. So I just didn't want to deal with that. I'm not an emergency kind of a person. I like to plan things out and coordinate things and make sure that everything's clean, neat, and organized. And it just wasn't working for me anymore.
But it's a great way to start out, especially when you come from the production background, right? So, I mean, you're in the very beginning, you don't have leads, you don't have money. If you can get in with a builder or, general contractor or, a roofer, it's a great way to start, right?
Yeah.
And kind of get things off the ground.
It's part of being scrappy, right?
Yeah.
We all start out, it's like when we have no customers, it's like we go to family and friends, right?
Sure.
With family, friends, we hang maybe signs on the side of a telephone pole, we join associations. It's like, reading that book, Guerrilla Marketing, all the guerrilla marketing tactics, free 99, all the free 99 resources. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it's all about in the beginning. I mean, we also used to do a lot of home shows. And now, again, this is back in the, 2014, 2016 era before the internet really took over. And we used to absolutely crush it at those things. We'd walk out of there with 100 leads.
You're doing less than $1 million in revenue at this point, correct?
Yeah, we're doing less than $1 million. Yep. But we would walk out there with a pile of leads to just call back and go and do these. And we would do really well. We'd fill up a couple weeks worth of work from one weekend. So it worked out great.
You said home shows. How many home shows in your local market were you doing a year?
We had 2 in spring and I think it was 3 in fall time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just spring and fall.
You relied heavily on the home shows.
That was a big driver of sales. Yeah.
So you talked about your progression. So you started out more or less guerrilla marketing. Then you started to add on, it sounded like AdWords, Facebook, some home shows. Talk about the progression, what you're learning as you're adding on these lead sources.
Well, what I'm learning is all the digital stuff kind of stinks. And and
Why? Why does it stink? Because it's expensive?
well, hang on. Let me explain. I got a whole story. It stinks because it's a lot of money. It's also a lot of work. It's also a lot of tracking. You have to be constantly tracking where leads are coming from. What your costs are, how your salespeople are selling, what's working, what's not, and constantly tweaking it. It's also hard to find a marketing company that's open and honest with you, and is going to be honest. That all of them will tell you, I got you, a million impressions or all these clicks and all that, but none of that really matters. Really, all that matters is how many appointments did I set for my salespeople to run, because that's really at the end of the day all that matters from a lead source is how many appointments was I able to set. So digital's hard because you have so much stuff coming in and half of it's garbage, and you're kind of stuck fighting for the other 50% to try to make that into an appointment.
I think Henry Ford said, I know half of my marketing budget is wasted. The problem is I just don't know which half.
Yeah.
So you talked about tracking your marketing costs.
Yeah.
What were you doing back then? Did you have a CRM? Was it a spread? What did that look like?
We didn't.
Uh-huh.
We guessed. We hoped.
You were guessing? Were you writing on a notepad as far as the cost? No?
No, it was literally just that. We would guess. So another cool tidbit, we never had a CRM. Up until October of last year, everything was a manila folder, and that was it. And I really looked through all the ones that were out there, and Jonathan's got a good one. He really does. Let's settle on him. And so yeah, now we actually have some technology to track this stuff. Before that, we would try to archaically, we would write on the front corner of the manila folder where the lead came from, and we would go back through the file and try to count them. So we tried to do it, but we didn't do a good job at all.
One of the things that I've seen with a lot of folks with the digital side of things is that when they're really small, it's tough, right? Because it's very easy to say the digital leads are junk, but if you don't have either the people or the kind of infrastructure to properly work with those leads, it is really tough, right? But if you have the technology to do the speed to lead, and you have somebody you have a call center that's making the phone calls and calling again and calling again and calling again, and then also the systems to track which ones are performing and which ones are maybe not. Things start to get. I mean, it's not always great, but things start to get a little bit better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This was the year. I wasn't so focused on revenue or anything like that. I was trying to get all of our processes in order to get our departments organized and start tracking the key numbers that we want to look at, and try to just make those little refinements and, try to find those profit leaks that are a little bit over here, a little bit over there, see what's working, fix the problems. And just kind of make it a well-oiled machine, because that's kind of the point where we're at. We going back to the revenue thing, for the past 22, 23, 24, even going back to 21, we were stuck in this 2 million, 3 million range, and bumping our head against the ceiling. And I didn't know why. Our net profit was mid-single digits, and it's what am I doing wrong? I don't understand. Now I realize what it is. We're at the point to where we have the capacity, but we're not being efficient with our leads coming in. Our salespeople aren't being efficient. Our installers aren't being efficient. So it's tweaking all those little things to make it really, really work.
So back to the marketing. So you mentioned we started to talk about your progression through the marketing. You added Facebook or Facebook, Instagram, AdWords, starting to go through some digital marketing and stuff like that. You're doing home shows. What are you doing today?
We're still doing a lot of the same things. That really hasn't changed. We're a lot more picky about them. We'll try something. If it works, we'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, we stop.
How long will you try for? How long will you test for, typically?
4 months, 5 months, 6 months, somewhere in there. Sometimes you have to give things time. Some things it's either working or not. But you don't want to be jumping in and out too quickly. You got to give it some time.
And how do you determine if a lead source is worth investing in, keeping, or not?
Well, one of the things I always look at the aggravation factor. If it's a lead source that's going to take a bunch of time, effort, and aggravation to deal with, it might not be the one to keep doing unless it produces really, really well. So aggravation factor is one of them. As far as, beyond that, you're just kind of looking at the numbers to where it's how many leads are you getting? How's it performing when it goes up to the sales side of things? And are you happy with the return on investment?
Uh-huh.
Are you seeing 10 times coming back to you? If not, you kind of better look at it, see if you can tweak something. Maybe it's you, maybe it's them. If you have a marketer that's open and honest, if you let them know what you're seeing, maybe they can help you, or maybe you can help them.
So you're basically looking for a 10% cost of marketing.
Yeah.
You mentioned 10 times. Okay.
Yep. If I give you $1,000, I want 10 back. That's kind of what I'm looking for. Is that wrong?
No, that's perfect. You put $1, you get 10 back, right? The business is wonderful if you do it right. It's like a
yeah. No, the one.
It's like
the one.
Casino. It's a great casino.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And kind of going back to before, I learned what I didn't know what I didn't know. Now I know it. So I'm going to grow it knowing that, these are kind of the numbers I should try to hit, and try to get those right before we, pour gas on the fire here and make it grow.
Yeah, it's you think you alluded to it before, I try to tell people all the time, this business is not hard, right? It's really not hard. It's basic math. It's formulas. When you know what you need to know, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But it can be difficult, right? It's difficult to implement these things, right? So
and I know, Stephen, I know you had, we had John O'Leary on the podcast a little while ago, and I know you know John.
Yes.
And my favorite thing from him that I heard and he's told me about is the knowing doing gap. I'm sure you've heard that from him as well, right?
I think he's beat it into my head enough that my knowing doing gap has become very, very small or non-existent, because I'm like, what made you so successful? He's like, just do this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take your word for it and do it.
But that's the thing, right? First, you got to know it. You got to figure it out. And you did that first by stumbling into the classroom with Brian Kay and, getting into the books and I know you're involved in a couple different kind of networks and groups, right? In terms of masterminds and all of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You definitely have to get involved in some peer groups. I mean, that is absolutely necessary to be around people who are like you. 'Cause, all of us entrepreneurs, we're kind of oddballs. There's not very many like us, and to where you can actually talk and have a conversation and feel like you're part of the group. Usually you're the outcast in the group, and it's nice when you have a group that you don't feel like the outcast.
Yeah, because when you're at home, it's like you're on an island. When you're working in the business, it's just it's lonely. It can be lonely, right?
It is incredibly lonely. And that was actually a big problem for me. It was very, very lonely, very isolating. Even you go home and you talk to your own family and they don't understand what you're going through or how to help you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that's what keeps the family relationship going well, at least in my house, to keep them separated from the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or there are plenty of entrepreneurs where you see the husband and wife or the partners in business together, and some of those people, they form some super teams. There's quite a few examples of those. Jonathan, you know quite a few of them, like I do. So back to the marketing, because we try to discuss the marketing. What are you doing? What are you doing today? You're like, what's different today than it was back in 2020?
So what we're doing differently, we're still doing PPC. We're still doing some Facebook to generate leads.
Are you managing that in-house, or are you paying an agency to do that for you?
I'm hiring an agency to do it. I never did do it in-house. I've learned to just hire people who are smarter than me to do these things, and I've just been doing that. But mixed with those two, you do have your SEO, your local SEO. You're trying to capture some information when people come on your website, so you can kind of market back to them. So we're doing that. We just literally yesterday started a brand ambassador program, and so this is new. So we're going to see how it goes. But I'm pretty excited about it. Again, going off the repeat referral, our customers love us. Like, they are so happy. Like, it's crazy. They really like what we do. So we're trying to get more from that.
You should be. Any successful company at any revenue level should be concentrating on repeat and referred business. Like our company, 30% of all of our opportunities are repeat and referral. As a matter of fact, it's one of the KPIs I pay my marketing director on, is to make sure that we get 30% or more repeat and referral. So it doesn't matter whether you're at 100,000 or 100 million. If you want a good, solid, healthy company, you've got to have an excellent repeat and referral rate. Yep.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, the crazy thing was, the reason I decided to make this position was we all love the repeat and referrals. They're great.
They sell at a higher clip. They sell it 40, 50, 60%.
Yeah. But you know what? Everyone was too scared to ask for it. You're at the customer's house. Ask for that, review. They're so happy. Ask them for it. Ask them what neighbor might need to service. Or maybe they got a daughter or a friend or someone. Explain to the customer why a review is important, why a referral is important. They're going to give you one, but you have to ask. And everybody's always scared to ask. I mean, I'm kind of scared to ask too. I'm a shy person. So it's tough for me to do stuff like that. It's tough for me to do a podcast. It's tough, but I force myself to do it. But
I'm not. Mike,
yeah, I know.
Make sure you rate us 5 stars on this podcast, audience. Okay, thank you. I am not scared to ask anybody for a review.
We're trying to do more with what we have. So, we're trying to do more with our current customer base. We're also trying to do more on our demo no sales. So we never had a rehash program ever. Like, we would just hope they called back and gave us a check. So we're actually working with Megan Beatty. She's actually going to be training us on our call center, and she's awesome.
She's
awesome. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of tough love, but we know it's going to work when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited because we're sitting on a gold mine that we're not even touching. So that's another marketing thing that we're trying to do. So we're not necessarily growing our marketing as in spending more money and going outside of our own company. We're trying to actually start mining the stuff that we already have to try to bring our lead cost down. Because right now we're running like 14% marketing cost, and but that's fully loaded. That's with the call center and everything else. But I'd really like to kind of keep that at 10.
Oh yeah, you're losing 4 points to your bottom line.
Correct. And that's aggravating because and that's another thing. As you start tracking the numbers, you start realizing how little tiny things make huge impacts. When you're talking about millions of dollars, 1% is a lot of money. So it's aggravating. And you really once you start seeing the numbers, you're like inclined to fix it because you see where it's all going.
4% on $3 million is $120,000. Quick math, see?
Yeah.
I mean, that would directly go into the company's profits, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So, you really start looking at that. So, as far as marketing, we're trying to do more with what we have and make sure we're handling them more efficiently. So from the time they call in, making sure our set rate is what we want it to be, making sure our, demos all get done, and, watching our salesmen on their close rate, helping them, training them on that. So there's a lot of new stuff that I've never done before. This is all uncharted waters, and we're, asking for help when we need help and some guidance, but it's a lot of doing this year. It's a lot of training, but it's going to work.
You're becoming more sophisticated. You took the first step. You got a subscription to Build the Prime so you can track everything, so you can have accurate data. And now you're making decisions based on the data, the database and the data that you have.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And again, we never had a CRM, so we're probably using like 10% of what's there. So we're pretty excited about that too.
You
There's
will
more
get
stuff.
better at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to go back. So we've talked about the marketing. Let's go to sales, Jonathan. Right.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So talk about, from the beginning you took over, you were selling, correct?
Yeah.
And you were running 10 to 12 appointments a day.
Yeah, I was running 10 to 12 appointments a day. And so we were really dumb back then too. We'd be running all over God's creation. And we had the carbon copy paper, and, you'd talk to them on the phone if they weren't home, or, catch them there. You'd write it down on a piece of paper, stick it in the mailbox, and hope and pray you got it. Because that's what we thought you were supposed to do. We didn't know any better. So that changed.
So you were providing an estimate on the spot.
We were providing an estimate on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
If you were home, if you were able to be home, great. If you weren't able to be home, we would just leave it in your mailbox or your door.
Okay.
We didn't know any better. That changed once I hired my first salesperson. We still did do quite a bit of that, but we strived to actually meet with them and go over the project. Now, again, we had no formal sales system. It was just go there, write down what you were doing, and come up with a price. Once I hired a second salesperson, then it changed again to where it was pretty much 90% of the times we met with someone, if not more, it was they needed to be home. Every time we made these changes, we performed better because you actually got the people there. Now, we didn't know why it performed better. It just did.
So you were running 10 to 12 appointments a day. So the average time that you were spending at the home had to be
an hour, 45 minutes to an hour.
That's still a long day.
Still a long day there, Stephen.
It was. I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised my wife didn't kill me. And that was right when we had an infant baby, and I'd be leaving at 5 a.m, and then I'd be coming back at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. And
you were saying, "Here's the price. Call me back." And then if someone, I'm just assuming, but based on what you tell them, I'm just assuming if someone said, "Yeah, I'd like to do it," you kind of went, "Oh, really?" And you collected the check.
Yep, you got it.
You got it. There. What was your closing rate, if you can remember? Was it like it had to be like less? Yeah, I mean, what was it? Do you remember?
I got to be honest. We didn't track it. That was back in Manila folder world. And
if you ran 12 appointments a day, how many of those?
I'm actually so there was one more secret I didn't tell you. So the close rate I think would actually be a lot higher than you would expect because we didn't charge enough. Yeah. So we probably still had a 50+% close rate because we didn't charge enough. We didn't know any better. We were so used to, because this is back when we were kind of heavy into the being a subcontractor. So we thought if we just
on a subcontractor rates, so 10% more, huh? You thinking you made it? You made it rich now?
Yep, we made it rich. We're doing great. Yep, that's what we thought. Boy, were we wrong.
And then all the real costs started adding up, huh?
Yeah. When you start adding in the extra overhead, you start adding in, you're starting to do some marketing, and you hit that wall to where it's like, we didn't make any money this month. We didn't make any money last month. What is going on? And then you realize I have to charge more.
Mm-hmm.
I have to charge more. And, you learn about your chart of accounts and where the money's kind of going. And you realize, you got to start adding all that into your cost too. It's not just material and labor and, double it or whatever the formula it is that some people use. There's a lot more than that.
There is no going rate, people, right? There is no rate, not when you're dealing with homeowners. You need to charge what you need to charge.
That is right.
Profit, because your expenses are different than my expenses and Steven's expenses and everybody else's, right? So don't look at the contractor down the street or your competitor that's in the same business and what he's charging. You don't look at them and you don't charge based on what they charge. You have to figure out what your true costs are and what you need to charge to make a decent profit. As Brian Gottlieb would say, decently. I think that's what he says.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Maybe
just to add, just
recently.
yeah, and just to add to that, you need to charge enough money to provide an excellent customer experience. You need to charge enough money to make sure that you take care of your employees, because they are the ones that create the customer experience, not you. You're behind the scenes. No one usually ever gets to see you, but it's your employees. So you need to make sure they're taken care of, so they're excited to go out and take care of the customer. And you need to charge enough money to make sure that you're sustainable, that you're going to be there in a year, 5, 10, 15, or in our case, this is year 20 for us. We're still here.
Say it all the time. The bottom line is the bottom line.
Bottom line. Yep.
That's it. Right? Your scorecard as the business owner is that.
Correct.
Right? That's the ultimate scorecard.
Yep.
What is dropping to the bottom line? Now, back to sales. So you're not charging enough. You're running 12 appointments a day, 10 to 12 appointments a day. You're closing half of them.
Yeah.
You have no system. So people are basically just like, I can't believe you charge me that. That's so cheap. Wow, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. You discover that's not enough money. I need to charge more. What happened to your closing rate after that?
It went down.
How much? Significantly?
Not much.
Well, then what did you raise your price by?
Probably our initial price raise was probably about 30%.
So you really were not charging enough.
No. And years later, I mean, we
raised it 30%, and you're closing with no formal sales process. Your closing rate didn't really decrease.
No.
So what was the point? Because that will tell you, right? That will tell you where you really need to learn to sell, right? When you raise that price and you see your closing rate significantly decrease by like half. What was that point? Where was that in that journey? Because that's the point. Right?
So I think that point we hit about 2 years ago, to where we raised our price drastically, to account for.
Did you say your price at that point had doubled from what you initially charged, tripled? Like, I mean, I know you don't know.
I'm going to say from where we were when I was running, those 10, 12 appointments a week till now, it's probably quadrupled.
So 4x.
Yeah.
To the point you realize, a lot of people are starting to tell me no. Now I need to learn to sell.
Yep, exactly. And again, that's been over a period of 10 years. So a lot of stuff has happened since then too. But now, you come up with your price that figures in all your, labor, material, sales commission, all your overheads, your profit. And that's a number you need to be able to provide, for your customers, for your employees, and for the company. And now you need to build that mountain of value around it that makes that price a really, really good deal for what they're getting.
Yeah, because it's perceived value, right? It's somebody said it. Somebody says it. It's like, if you want to sell a $500 window, you have to tell a $1,000 story. If you want to sell a $1,000 window, you have to tell a $2,000 story, right? Mm-hmm. A sale happens when value exceeds the price. When price exceeds the value, a sale does not happen, right? So it's learning to create that value, right? It's learning to tell the story. A lot of times we're already doing those things. We just don't know how to point to that and tell the customer that properly.
Sure. And that's actually really hard to do. That's something we're trying to figure out, our unique value proposition. We're trying to, do our analysis and write it down and bring it into everything that we do.
You do it every day. You take it for granted. Of course we do that. Doesn't everybody do that?
Yeah, you're right. You do it every day. And to you, it seems simple. Like you almost overlook it. But when you look at it, in terms of what your competition's doing.
Well, maybe they do, but the chances are your competitors probably aren't telling your customers or their customers about it either, right? And it so happens to be most of the time it's pretty damn important to the customer, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
it's like, are you setting up the job site? Are you being clean and neat? What does cleanup look like? Do you take all the garbage away? Of course we do. But how many people are telling the customer that?
0, maybe 1.
You, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Now we try to make sure that when we really put on that educator hat, that consultant hat when we're meeting with the customer. We're there to help them, to educate them, to make a really, really good home improvement decision. And sometimes that's not with us, and that's okay, because not everybody's our customer, and we're sometimes we're just not a good fit. But we want to make sure that we really educate and have that customer understand what it is they're getting into and exactly what to expect. And that's important, because this is all scary. Jonathan, when you went through your first home improvement project, wasn't that a little scary?
Yeah, it really was. It's when this is going way back, right? But when we were going through the process of the original one when we did the bathroom back in my first home improvement project I ever did in my house, we went with the person who told us what to expect. Really, like everybody else was just real thin on details, and like dropping it in the mailbox, like you were talking about.
And they were not the cheapest price, right? The contract you chose was not the cheapest price, correct?
No, they weren't the cheapest. No, it was the one that we felt confident in and the most comfortable, that we were going to get what we were looking for.
And they did a great job, but there were still holes, right? There were still things that needed to be improved, which led you to creating Build a Prime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. People don't buy the product; they buy the company. They buy the person that's in front of them, and they buy how you make them feel. That trust that they have with you. That's what you need to build. That's what you need to convey, and get them to understand that you're that person that is going to be there for them no matter what, and you want to be there for them, and you're excited to be there for them, and you're honored.
So back to your back to your sales system there, Stephen. So when you're running 10 to 12 appointments 10 years ago, it's not a one-call close system. It's here's a price.
Yeah. Yep. It's
a closing process. Probably a lot of it is two-step. They're calling you back. Are you asking for the sale there? Are you asking for the sale at that point? Are you saying, hey, this is what I need? Or
yeah, sure. If we were able to meet with them, it was a one-call close. We went over the process with them, went over the contract with them, went over the project, and the price was right there, the down payment amount. We'd collect the check or a credit card or whatever they wanted to do. And we'd walk away with a signed contract and a check. And again, it was pretty easy because back then our prices, selling our price. But there really wasn't a 2-call close then. It was all, it was a shotgun approach. You just kind of left a bunch of quotes and hope they chose them, or you were actually able to meet with them and, go over everything all at once.
So most people are, I would imagine from what I'm getting, are calling you back to do the project, or you said you're closing half of them. So if you run 12 appointments a day, 6 people are telling you yes on average, correct?
Yep.
Out of those 6, how many are giving you a check right there on the spot? Because you're sounds like you're just going in, you're standing outside, you're writing an estimate, and you're probably handing it to them or putting it in the mailbox.
Yeah. No, you were lucky if you had 1 or 2 people home that you were actually able to talk to them, or be able to have a conversation with them over the phone as you walked around. Because again, we were doing it on our schedule, not theirs.
There you go.
So, I know you were looking for that.
So again, because Stephen, I want the listeners, right, of this, when they listen to this podcast, I want them to be able to go, I do the same thing, right? That's what I'm doing wrong.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that. One of the guys that used to work for me, he thought, salespeople were just, trying to sell ketchup popsicles to women in white gloves, the snake oil salesman, that all they did is they drove around and they just left quotes in people's mailboxes. And I think that's what a lot of, home improvement contractors starting out, I think that's what they do. They just,
what most people are doing. I did that.
Yeah. And then you realize this is not the way to do this.
No,
it's not the way.
I want to make real money. I have to make these changes.
Yeah. And then, like I said, this was before we even, met Brian. We kind of learned that if somebody's there, you're pretty likely to walk away with a check. So it was, if someone's there, that equals check. So you wanted to have them there. And then you realized, well, if only one person's there, it's a better opportunity if, better closing rate if there's two of them, both of them, because now I get to talk to both of them. So two people equals more checks. So we kind of learned that you need to have both people there. And it's not until probably the past 6 months to where we're pretty stringent on having both people there. Or if we do go out, we will change from a 1-call close to a 2-call close. We won't give a price. We will set a second appointment to come back when both decision makers are there. We'll get our measurements and all that kind of stuff and maybe leave a couple samples or something.
Because now you have a formalized process.
Yes, because we know if we give a demo and it's a one-legger, it's going to fail. We basically wasted that lead. You might get some of them, but it's most likely going to fail.
Okay, so let's go back, all right? Because I want to be really clear and detailed about your progression through marketing and selling. So you've gotten to the point now where you realize, hey, I need to 4x my pricing, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Now more people are starting to tell me no, because now I'm starting to become, expensive, right?
Yep.
Right. So this, shotgun approach of just throwing quotes in the mailbox, they're not calling me back as much as they possibly should. Even with more people, you're starting to evaluate, okay, if I have more people there, one person, it helps. A second person, that helps. But at some point, your closing rates, even with all of those changes, they dropped significantly.
Yep.
And then you had to bring on, did you hire a consultant? Did you create something? At what point did you bring in or create a formalized selling process?
So we didn't. We still kept winging it. It wasn't until fall, wintertime this year that we actually started a formalized selling system. And but before that, we just learned that we needed to spend time with the buying party. We needed to talk about the process. So we kind of started doing a more formalized selling system without realizing that's what we were doing. We were just doing it because we realized things were working.
Yeah.
We didn't know why or how to.
And you're moving along. And this works. This doesn't work. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we didn't know what or why. We just, hey, just spend a little bit more time talking about this. Make sure both people are home. And it helped significantly.
You're figuring shit out. You're resourceful. You're what most entrepreneurs are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But if I would have known that, there was this thing of this, selling system or step selling, if I would have known this 10 years ago, wow. Wow. That would have been amazing. I mean, so now we're implementing one and we're practicing and training and it's hard. It's not easy. And it's the discipline of following it is tough because you want to resort back.
Who have you ultimately decided to work with? Are you working with a consultant?
So we're a member of Certified Contractors Network. So we're using their 5P selling system right now. It works really, really well to what we were doing before. It just gives it a lot more structure. So it was a really easy adaptation for us. And probably in about a week or so, we're going to have an Engage presentation built. So it's going to make it very easy for the salesperson to kind of follow the process without having to try to memorize everything.
This is Jonathan Weinberg. This is perfect, right? Because this is Steven's journey at the $3 million mark, right?
We're gonna have him back again, to see where things have gone. It's about
he's talking about right now how he's bringing in an Engage presentation, right? And it's like he's further along than some of our listeners, and then he's behind some others, right? So the people that are ahead of him, like myself, right, the 10 million. I remember being at this point, bringing on an Engage presentation, right, to continue to build the sales process, right? It's just. I'm so excited for this podcast to hear people's stories because the listeners that really stay with us and listen to them all, they're going to start to really see how everything fits together, right?
Yeah, no, and I'll tell you what, the journey I've been on for the past year and now starting to really, bear down on the implementation of some of these things. I mean, it's exciting. It's kind of fun to really fix things and see the numbers change and the results that you get. It's it's pretty amazing. Now that you understand what it is, you know how to track it, you know what to do with the information. It's life changing, and not just for me, but for my whole team, for customers, for everyone is winning by us doing this. Everyone, no one's losing anymore.
Are you still selling, Stephen?
No, I haven't. I haven't sold for years.
That's great.
Yeah, I haven't sold probably for 6-7 years, maybe.
And you got 2 salespeople, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, how many sales reps do you currently have?
Currently, we have 2. We're going to have 3.
You hired a 3rd sales rep now.
Yeah. Yep.
And he or she is in training?
They will be starting next week.
Okay. Do you have a process for that?
Not yet.
Oh, good luck.
Not yet.
That's the next level.
Yeah. No. So I'm working on that because you're looking at the current sales manager until I find that replacement. But I've made a list of everything I've done wrong. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to make sure I don't do those. But also I'm going to reach out to a couple people in my network too to get a copy of what their sales onboarding looks like. What's the the schedule, not all the details, because that really doesn't matter. Just what's the schedule? Mm-hmm. What do you teach them, week 1, week 2, week 3, and I'll build something off of that. But I know where I failed in the training and the testing to make sure that they're grasping it. So I know I won't make those mistakes again.
Yeah. It's like Brian Kay says, success leaves clues, to go to the people who have already been there. There's shortcuts, right? Resourceful. Ask people that are already ahead of you, right? How did you do this? How did you do that? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is one of the coolest things I learned by joining some peer groups. I never knew that contractors wanted to help each other. Before that, it was you and other subcontractors, and all they would do is fight and lie to each other. But you find some good groups, and they're an open book, and they'll help you and share everything because someone did it for them too. So they're more than willing to share as well.
Well, that's because successful people, it's a mindset, right? Mm-hmm. It's a mindset of abundance, right? It's truly successful people in this business and all businesses. They believe in abundance. They believe that wealth and abundance can be created out of thin air, right? So those people are not apprehensive to sit down with somebody to show them because they believe that there's enough work for everybody, right?
Correct.
Where on the other hand, it's the mindset of scarcity, right? It's like, well, there's only so much work to go around. It's just 2 different perspectives, right? So you'll find that the people that are truly successful believe in abundance, right? And they won't have a problem helping you, right? So understand that. A lot of it's mindset too. Brian Kay talks about, 90% mindset, 10% skill set. Sounds like you figured out most of the skill set stuff.
I figured out the skill set, and I always thought that was the most important, but now I'm realizing it's the mindset. And that's way harder to build than the skills. Those are the easy parts. The mindset is difficult. It's difficult for you. It's difficult for your team. But everyone has to kind of start learning it, and that's probably the biggest challenge.
That's the stuff you have to work on every single day. That's the next step. Once you learn how to market and sell and put these processes in, that's the point at which you truly become a leader, right?
Yep.
You start focusing on the culture, the mission statement, the vision statement, right? Growing the company from within, right?
Yep.
That's the hard part. Right? That's when you become a people development company.
Yep.
That's the shit I'm still working on.
Oh, I know. That's developing people, but I look forward to that. We're working on that kind of stuff little by little. Again, we have a lot of work just to get all of the the kinks out of the system and get all the nuts and bolts tightened. But that's going to be the fun part. Because I really like changing people's lives, so that's going to be pretty exciting to be able to help them.
This business can be fun. It can be rewarding, right?
Absolutely.
And give you Brian Kay talks about all the freedoms you want, whether that be time freedom, financial freedom, like whatever it is that you want.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's different for each person. It's not the same.
So we're running a little low on time here, but we didn't even get a chance to get into production or org structure or too much into the tech side. We weaved a little bit in here and there, but before we go, I have one question I'd love to ask you. And, what's the next big thing that you need to do to get to the next step? Like, what is it? Is it the sales training? Is it what's the next big thing that you need to do?
That's a big question.
It's a hard
That is a hard question. I'm going to give you a really broad answer. If you don't like it, I'll give you another one. But we learned about what we need to do in our call center. We learned about what we need to do to watch our marketing. We learned what we need to do to follow a sales process. We're learning how to do a rehash process. We're learning how to manage our customer satisfaction throughout our production process. So these are the things that we know how to do them. Now it's just effectively doing those processes over and over and over and looking how to improve it and make it better.
It's maturation. So a lot of the processes are in place. They're there. You know them. It's just a matter of maturation,
repetition,
repeatability. Yes, consistency.
He has the $10 million blueprint. He understands how important a call center is. Marketing, lead sources, call center, sales system. He knows it's there. He has the blueprint, most of it. Now it's just it's with a GSD, getting shit done, right? It's implementing it, right? That's the hard part. So I say business is not hard, it's difficult, right? You go online and buy the blueprint. You can pay people to get the blueprint, right? Lots of people do. We talk about it here. You get the blueprint. The problem is, Brian Kay says this all the time, only 2% of people actually go back
and do it.
Yep.
That's the hard part.
It's the hard part. That's the difficult part. Yes. True.
Difficult. Yeah, we'll use that word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So does that answer your question, Jonathan?
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah.
So quickly, one more, Jonathan. I was hoping you were going to ask it. You currently, what is your org chart? Because we like to talk to everybody about this. What does your current org chart look like today, Stephen?
So you have myself at the top as the owner, CEO. Right below that, you have the operations manager. I still have my name in that box.
It's okay.
Then it splits off to the different departments. Our production department, I have a production manager. And below him are project managers, and there's some different install teams, and there's also some subcontractors. Then you have the marketing bucket. So that's all by itself as well. And there's somebody in there. My name's kind of in there in pencil at the moment. It's not in ink, but it's in pencil because I'm kind of still involved.
Are you still the marketing director? You're still at the top role there in marketing? You just have people working below you?
So there's one girl that I have in there now, and she's going to be moving into that brand ambassador position. She is not comfortable with all the numbers and the analytics.
But she's working below you.
She'll be working below me in that department.
And you're still managing all of the vendors and the digital market. So you're sitting in the marketing director seat.
Yep. So my name
in that bucket, in that seat.
Yes, my name is in that seat. My office management bucket, I have an office manager. She takes care of all that stuff. There's a couple things that I still do, but we're transitioning all that to her. So that would be hands off for me. On the sales side of things, I am the sales manager for the moment. I plan on changing that this year. But what I'm doing is, as I'm doing these different roles, I am building the job description for that person to hire and replace me. And I'm kind of building what that role is going to look like, what they need to do each day, and what they should be graded on. So as I'm doing it, I'm building that so I can find the right person. Besides that, I think that's it.
And you have 2 salespeople and 1
2 sales, and one more coming on board. Yep,
1 more coming in the training.
Yep.
Congratulations! You look like the typical $3 million company.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah.
So that's where we're at for the moment.
Yeah, Jonathan, we're an hour and 7 minutes in. We like to usually cut this thing around 1 hour. Stephen, I'd like to thank you for coming on. Do you have any questions for us, or do you have anything you want to say before we go?
No, I'm good. I'm just going to give a shout out to my wife for dealing with me all these years, but now I'm finally figuring it out. And, these guys that I'm talking to, they've been a big help. So
really excited for you, Stephen. This is, it's going to take off here. You can see you're doing all the right things.
You are.
All the stars are aligning here. So it's real good.
And you've got the right mentors, right? You've got John O'Leary. I mean, that's an excellent mentor to have. He's one of the best in our industry. And he's local.
Yeah, he's like 20 minutes from me.
Buy that man lunch every single time you possibly can. If I were you,
absolutely,
I would be feeding him every single day I could.
That sounds good.
Phenomenal person. This is Stephen's first podcast.
Yes.
I think you did an excellent job.
It was fantastic.
Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
All right, so let's wrap it up, everybody. On behalf of me, Stephen, Jonathan Weinberg, Jonathan, take us home.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.